what if I told you that modern society has fundamentally broken the laws of the solar system?
I mean, that is quite the opening statement.
Right. But like if you look up at the sky, the underlying logic up there is actually pretty undeniable. The sun is at the base of our existence, you know?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
provides the light, the gravity, the energy that makes life on this planet possible. And because it is at the base of everything, it naturally sits right at the center of everything. It's a perfect equilibrium.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you look at how we actually live our lives today, we've completely reorganized our universe. We took the sun, meaning the earth, our biology, nature itself, and we kicked it right out of the center.
Wow.
And what did we replace it with? A dollar sign.
That is, it's a profound shift.
Yeah.
And it directly contradicts what ancient civilizations understood so deeply.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Egyptian Ankh, the yin and yang, or that ancient geometric symbol, the flower of life,
Right, right.
they all illustrate the exact same fundamental truth, which is what is at the base of life must remain at the center of life.
That makes total sense.
And when you displace the base, the whole structure becomes incredibly unstable.
And that instability is exactly what we are unpacking today. We're taking a deep dive into a fascinating stack of notes and excerpts from a text by Thomas Malbrouck.
It's a great text.
His core thesis is that modern society has suffered this massive inversion of priorities. We have taken the living things like nature, our physical health, our time, and we've subordinated it to the symbolic.
Meaning money, technology, social status, speed, all of that.
Exactly.
Though we should probably clarify right away that the author's goal here is not some, nostalgic plea to abandon modern society.
Right, he doesn't want us to burn our smartphones and go live in caves.
Exactly. He isn't anti-progress. What he's advocating for is what he calls a gentle insurrection.
A gentle insurrection, I like that.
Yeah, it's an internal revolution to recenter our compass. It's about exploring how humanity exiled itself from the very things that sustain it, and how we can quietly but powerfully reclaim that center.
Without tearing down the world around us.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand how a whole species allows this massive inversion of priorities to happen without even noticing, you really have to look at how our reality is constructed.
It's so insidious.
It really is. Malbrouck argues that it all starts with language. Our language has essentially been hijacked.
Yeah.
Words have been slowly drained of their true meaning to serve commercial interests instead of human ones.
It's a deception of words. When words lose their true meaning, our perception of reality just warps right along with them.
Definitely.
Malbrouck uses some incredibly stark examples to illustrate this, starting with how our society defines the word health.
Oh man, the health versus medicine distinction in this text is wild.
It really makes you think.
He points out that the people we call health professionals, like doctors and specialists, are actually trained as pathologists. They are brilliant experts in disease.
Right, they excel at recognizing a pathology and prescribing a chemical or a procedure to fix it.
But we only see them when we are already sick. They aren't actually trained in the comprehensive creation of health, like how to optimize your environment, your nutrition, your lifestyle, so you never get sick in the first place.
Right. We call it a healthcare system, but functionally, it's a disease management system.
Let me throw an analogy at this just to make sure I'm fully grasping it. It feels like owning a car, but treating your mechanic like they are the one driving it.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like, you wouldn't wait until your engine literally catches fire on the highway to finally take your car to the shop and then call that car health.
No, of course not.
Car health is putting in the right fuel, checking the tire pressure, doing routine oil changes yourself. The mechanic is just the crisis manager. But with our own bodies, we've entirely outsourced the daily maintenance. We ignore the fuel we put in, and then we praise the crisis manager for keeping us barely running.
That is a perfect parallel. We have convinced ourselves that having access to crisis management is the exact same thing as possessing actual vitality.
Wow. Yeah.
And Malbrouck extends this exact same linguistic deception to agriculture. He quotes the agronomist Claude Bourguignon.
Oh, right. The soil expert.
Yeah, Bourguignon famously stated that modern agriculture isn't actually agriculture anymore, it's medicine.
Because we are just keeping sick plants alive in dead soil using chemical products just to maintain an artificial yield.
Precisely. That isn't cultivating life. That is artificially extending the life of a dying organism purely for commerce.
That is so bleak.
It is. And this all stems from how we have conflated value with price. We live in a global system where, say, an Amazonian tree that provides oxygen, sequesters carbon, and sustains an entire localized ecosystem. That tree has infinite value to the living world,
Sure.
but it has absolutely zero price on Wall Street.
Until it is chopped down and turned into paper or lumber.
Right. We only attach a symbolic price to the tree once the living aspect of it has been effectively destroyed.
I want to push back on this a little bit because I know people listening might be thinking the exact same thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Let's be real for a second. Isn't modern medicine and industrial farming a clear sign of progress? I mean, you can't argue with the raw data.
That's true.
We live longer than ever before. Infant mortality has plummeted globally, and we have more access to food and raw calories than any generation in human history. To call all of that a deception feels a bit, I don't know, dismissive of massive scientific achievements?
I get that. That is a completely fair critique. And what's fascinating here is how the author synthesizes that exact paradox.
Oh, how so?
Well, he acknowledges the data. He says, yes, our life expectancy has absolutely increased.
Yeah.
But he challenges us to look at the quality of that life. Our lifespan is up, but our biological vitality is severely down.
Ah, I see the distinction.
Yeah, we have immense access to calories, sure, but they are largely empty, chemically sustained calories that lead directly to skyrocketing rates of diabetes, obesity, autoimmune issues.
Which just sends us back to the disease management system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Malbrouck views this as a profound illusion of progress. It's technological advancement masking a deep moral and biological regression. We are surviving for a much longer time, but we are thriving significantly less.
So if we are physically drained but technologically stimulated, we
Yeah.
aren't really living at all. We're just biologically existing to serve the economy.
Right.
Malbrouck actually has a phrase for this state, doesn't he?
He does. He calls it the state of the living dead, or the dead living.
The living dead.
Yeah, because we've accepted this deception of words, believing that popping a pill equals health, or that sitting in an air-conditioned room watching a screen equals life. We have essentially become like those industrially farmed plants.
Kept upright by medical interventions and constant external stimulation.
Exactly, but fundamentally drained of our internal natural vitality.
Think about your own day right now as you're listening to this. Think about your morning routine. Are you reaching for your phone to check emails or social media before your feet even hit the floor?
Most people do.
Yeah. That is the symbolic realm taking over the living realm before your day has even started. There are these incredibly relatable anecdotes in the text that highlight this.
The neighbor story really stuck with me.
Yes. The author mentions his neighbor after the 2020 lockdowns who confessed he only felt alive when he was finally allowed to return to the office and put on a suit.
Or the teenagers who literally describe feeling dead or non-existent if they lose their smartphones.
It's crazy. We have taken our internal life force and transferred it entirely into objects and societal constructs.
We project our existence into the symbolic. Job titles, digital avatars, bank balances, and when those constructs are threatened or removed, we feel entirely empty because we've neglected the biological base.
The Ronnie Coleman example in the text absolutely floored me.
Oh, that is a brutal example.
Ronnie Coleman is a legendary bodybuilder, an 8-time Mr. Olympia. To the outside world, the guy looked like a superhero, the pinnacle of human physical achievement.
Right, but behind the scenes, he was completely destroying his biological base.
His spine, his hips totally shattered. He pushed his biology far beyond its natural limits, using steroids and lifting unimaginable weights.
And when he was interviewed, much later in life, barely able to walk even after multiple intensive surgeries, he was asked if he had any regrets.
And his answer perfectly encapsulates the living dead mindset.
It really does. His only regret was that he didn't do more reps with 360 kilos.
It's terrifying. He wished he had pushed his broken body even harder for the title. The author calls this the capitalism of the body.
Because it's this endless, destructive accumulation of muscle, which is his version of capital.
Right, at the absolute expense of his actual health and nature. His mindset was so perfectly adapted to the capitalist model of infinite growth that he couldn't see the destruction of his own foundation.
It is the ultimate perversion of the body's natural limits. And to highlight how far we've strayed from our base, the text contrasts our modern urban society with the Hadza hunter-gatherers of Tanzania.
This part was super interesting.
Yeah, the Hadza don't have access to modern medicine, hospitals, or industrial agriculture. They live entirely in the living world, totally embedded in nature.
And researchers found that while they do face higher infant mortality challenges without modern medicine, the Hadza who survive childhood regularly live into their
And they
80s.
are incredibly healthy.
Exactly. Here is the kicker. They have zero instances of diabetes, zero heart disease, zero obesity. None of the chronic illnesses that define modern aging. They are vital and active until the very end of their lives.
This contrast forces us to ask a really difficult question.
Which is?
If this living dead state is making us chronically ill, anxious, and unhappy, why on earth do we conform to it? Why do we accept it?
That is the million-dollar question.
The text dives deeply into the psychological dimension to answer this, specifically referencing Hegel's dialectic of the master and the slave.
Okay, I'm going to need you to break that down for me. Who is the master and who is the slave here?
Well, in a simplified way, Hegel argued that human consciousness is fundamentally driven by the desire for recognition by another. We don't just want to survive, we want to be acknowledged.
Okay.
In our modern context, the master is the consumer system, the symbolic realm of status, wealth, and productivity. And we willingly become the slave to this system.
So we surrender our biological vitality, our time, and our health, just so the system and our peers will recognize us as successful or at least normal.
Exactly. We want that social recognition.
That makes a lot of sense. The text also brings up the Concolor's psychological model, which basically says that humans are terrified of isolation. We prioritize social acceptance over everything else.
Right. We prioritize our social survival over our biological survival. The fear of being ostracized is so deeply wired into our evolutionary biology that we will actively participate in our own destruction just to remain part of the group.
So we eat the toxic, highly processed fast food because all our friends are eating it, and being the one person ordering a locally sourced salad makes you a weird outcast.
Pretty much. We act like the living dead because it is the societal baseline. It is socially safer to be sick alongside everyone else than to be healthy and entirely alone.
Man, that's heavy. But which creates a compounding problem, right? If this lifestyle is making us physically sick and it's systematically destroying the planet we live on, why do we constantly seek more of it? Why are we accelerating?
Because of the Ouroboros. Malbrouck uses the symbol of the Ouroboros, the ancient image of the snake eating its own tail.
Right.
It perfectly captures humanity repeating these same cycles of destruction, driven entirely by two relentless forces: fear and greed.
Fear of not having enough and greed for more than we actually need.
Precisely. It is a cycle of hyperconsumption. The author contrasts the glittering spectacle of the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, the CES.
I've seen videos of that. It's crazy.
You walk through there and you see flying skateboards, robotic vacuums, immersive virtual reality headsets. It looks like the absolute pinnacle of human achievement.
Sure.
But then you look at the devastating cost of life required to produce those temporary toys. Rivers drained entirely dry in Mexico for soda production. Soils permanently poisoned by pesticides for cheap, fast-fashion clothing. Entire forests leveled for packaging.
Wow.
We celebrate the symbolic technological progress while remaining completely blind to the living cost.
He even brings in pop culture to illustrate how deep this sickness goes. He quotes that famous scene with Agent Smith in The Matrix.
Oh, that's a classic scene.
Agent Smith looks at humanity and realizes we don't act like other mammals. Every other mammal reaches a natural equilibrium with its surrounding environment. But humans, we multiply and we consume every natural resource until there's nothing left. And the only way we can survive is to spread to another area. He compares humanity to a virus.
It's a brutal analogy, but biologically speaking, under our current societal model, it holds an uncomfortable amount of weight.
It really does.
And it stands in direct opposition to a realization the author had while watching the anime Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, yeah, what was that concept?
There's a core concept in that show. Ichi wa zen, zen wa ichi. One is all is one. It's the fundamental law of nature.
Right, nothing is lost, nothing is created out of nowhere, everything transforms in a perfect balanced cycle.
Exactly. And we completely broke that cycle.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There's an analogy in the text about Christmas presents. The author imagines a child on Christmas morning who receives so many toys that some boxes are never even opened. They just sit stacked in the closet gathering dust.
It's a great metaphor.
Reading that made me realize that we have completely lost the biological concept of need. A biological need is finite. You only need so much water, so much food, so much shelter. But we replaced it with infinite psychological want.
And because psychological want has no limit, we take without giving back, breaking that natural equilibrium.
And because we know deep down that this cycle of infinite want is unsustainable, that the Ouroboros is eating itself, we develop an obsession with waiting for a savior.
Oh, absolutely. We wait for a new piece of technology to save us, or we wait for a charismatic political candidate to fix it. We tell ourselves, oh, green tech will magically solve climate change, or this new policy will fix economic inequality.
We use the tool to mask the symptom instead of fixing the root cause.
Exactly. Technology itself isn't the enemy, and it certainly isn't the savior either. Technology is just a tool. The real problem is that we have become completely enslaved to the tool, hoping it will do the hard work of behavioral change for us.
So, if we can't wait for the system to fix itself, because the system is designed to perpetuate itself, how do we break out?
This is where Malbrouck introduces the idea of the gentle insurrection at the individual level. It's a revolution of the self.
He uses the story of Michael Jordan to illustrate this beautifully.
Oh, the basketball example.
Yeah. Michael Jordan is arguably the greatest basketball player to ever live, but for the first 7 years of his professional career, he consistently lost in the playoffs. Why? Because he was trying to be the lone savior.
He tried to score all the points and carry the entire franchise on his back.
Right. It wasn't until he stopped trying to be the savior and realized that true, sustainable success requires empowering everyone taking individual responsibility on the court that the Bulls actually started winning championships.
The lesson there is stark. We cannot vote for political saviors and expect them to magically fix a fundamentally flawed consumption-based system.
We have to take the shot ourselves. And the text provides a practical framework for this. There's an image included in the notes called Le Cercle Vertueux du Citoyen Libre, the virtuous circle of the free citizen. It's a 4-step process, but reading through it, I realized none of these steps are easy in a modern context.
Let's walk through them. What is the first step?
First is face the facts. You have to look honestly at the state of your own health, your own habits, and your local environment. You have to admit you are part of the Ouroboros.
Which is difficult because the deception of words tells us everything is fine. What's the second step?
Second is take responsibility. You have to accept that every effect has a cause, and your daily choices are those causes. This one feels incredibly hard because our culture constantly tells us we are passive victims of the economy or of algorithms. Taking responsibility means stripping away that comforting excuse.
Absolutely. The third step is step out of your comfort zone. Change is inherently uncomfortable. If you are addicted to the constant dopamine of your smartphone, putting it away for a weekend is going to feel like withdrawal.
And the fourth step is act here and now. Don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for a new law to pass. Act today.
That fourth step is vital because it breaks the paralysis. A staircase is made of a multitude of small steps. You don't have to leap to the top floor in one bound.
That makes it feel much more achievable.
And this urgency to act here and now is profoundly echoed by people who have faced their own mortality. The author shares stories of people on their deathbeds, or those who have had near-death experiences.
Like the story about Fabrice.
Right, Fabrice.
Yeah.
A highly successful executive who suffered a severe stroke, slipped into a coma, and almost didn't make it. When he finally woke up and recovered, he completely changed his life.
He sold everything, left the corporate world, and moved onto a boat.
Because when you face death, the illusion of the symbolic completely shatters. The author notes something so poignant. No one on their deathbed ever says, I wish I had spent more time at the office, or I wish my stock portfolio was slightly larger.
Right. They regret not spending time with their family. They regret ignoring their physical health until it was too late. They regret not living.
They deeply regret trading the living for the symbolic. So the gentle insurrection is really just a process of waking up before you are violently forced to wake up by a tragedy or an illness.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this right now?
The beauty of Malbrouck's argument is that you don't need to go off the grid to participate in this insurrection.
Not at all.
It is entirely about your everyday choices. It's about looking at your daily routine and consciously choosing the living over the symbolic.
It's choosing the local over the global.
Yeah. It's taking a walk outside without your phone buzzing in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's looking at what you eat and choosing an apple that actually grew in real soil instead of a highly processed snack manufactured in a facility.
It's about overcoming that paralyzing feeling of impotence. When we look at global crises, climate change, economic collapse, health epidemics, we feel so small that we end up doing nothing at all.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the gentle insurrection reclaims your power by simply asking why you do things. Why am I buying this piece of plastic? Why am I eating this food? Why am I working this late?
By repeatedly asking why, you step out of the matrix of blind conformity.
Exactly. Every single small, localized choice you make that respects the biological base of life contributes to the healing of the whole. You become a conscious cause rather than an unconscious effect.
A conscious cause rather than an unconscious effect. That is a powerful shift in perspective. Looking back at our journey today, we started by realizing how we essentially swapped the sun for the dollar sign, moving the biological base of life entirely out of the center of our society.
A massive inversion.
Yeah, and we unpacked the deception of words, seeing how terms like health and progress have been hijacked to keep us consuming. We recognized the danger of becoming the living dead, trapped in a cycle of fear, greed, and infinite want.
The Ouroboros.
Right. And ultimately, we discovered that the way out isn't through waiting for a savior, but through a gentle insurrection, waking up and taking small, responsible actions in the here and now.
It requires immense vigilance to not slide back into the comfort of the symbolic. We are surrounded by it constantly. And building on Malbrouck's observation that as we progress scientifically, we often regress morally endlessly, relying on technology to solve the problems created by technology. I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
Oh, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Imagine if a massive solar flare hit the Earth tomorrow. It wipes out all our digital systems, our bank accounts, our stock markets, our social media profiles, our cloud storage.
Total blackout.
All the symbolic wealth and status we've built vanishes in an instant, leaving you with absolutely nothing but the living world around you. Nature, your physical body, the people next to you. In that moment, would you finally feel completely alive, or would you feel entirely empty?
Wow, that is going to stay with me for a long time. If the symbolic disappeared, would you feel alive or would you feel empty? What a profound question to end a profound deep dive. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today and for taking the time to unpack these incredible ideas with us. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember to keep the living at the center.